The speaking test also has its own criteria. In fact, there are two categories of criteria that exists for speaking tests. The first one looks at the linguistics or the spoken language of the candidate, while the second one focuses more towards the clinical communication or how well the interaction between the candidate and the patient was. Intelligibility, fluency, appropriateness of language, and resources of grammar and expression are the four criteria from the linguistic group. Let's look at each one of them. Intelligibility. It is defined as the quality of being possible to understand. So this criteria checks if you were understood by the listener or not, and how easy it was to understand you. Fluency refers to the ability to speak or write a language easily, well, and quickly. Infrequent or too many pauses may cause a reduction of score in this criteria. Appropriateness of language. This criteria focuses on the words used, the register and tone of how you said something. The more control you have over these aspects, the better you score in this criteria. Resources of grammar and expression. This one focuses on the grammatical aspects of the language, which includes the correct use of complex vocabulary, idiomatic expressions, adherence to the grammatical rules, and pronunciation of these words and expressions. The next is the clinical communication criteria. Here, the scoring is based on evidences that convey certain actions or behaviors which indicates your ability to establish or achieve certain things during the role play. These actions and behaviors are indicative of how well your interaction with the patient is. Indicators of relationship building. This criteria measures the use of words, phrases, or actions that establishes and builds your relationship with that of the patient or the caretaker. For example, greeting the patient before the interaction begins is a good sign that you are welcoming them and ready to solve problems that they are facing. Indicators of understanding and incorporating the patient's perspective. This one measures the use of words, phrases, or behaviors that makes the patient or the carer feel understood and gives them a security of interacting with the right person for their problems. For example, not interrupting the patient when they are speaking. The end result of this action is that they may feel you have understood them completely. Indicators of providing structure. This one looks for indicators of an underlying format or a structure in place when you are involved in an interaction. For example, asking open-ended questions before moving to closed-ended ones or specific questions. Indicators of information gathering. This criteria looks for evidences of gathering enough information from the patient before providing an advice. For example, being able to understand the patient's needs. Some of them are explicitly said by the patient, while others are implied. As a healthcare professional, you should be able to provide evidence to understand both explicit and implied information, taking into consideration the sensitivity of information that the patient provides. Indicators of information giving. This one looks for evidences that provide all necessary information which can be explicitly asked or implied as needed by the patient. Being able to provide a comprehensive solution for both their explicit and implied problems without overwhelming the patient or the caretaker is key. It's not that hard. Remember, this is just a role play that simulates the healthcare setting where you, as a healthcare professional, interact with the patient in your work environment. All linguistic criteria are scored on a scale of 0 to 6, and all clinical communication criteria are scored on a scale of 0 to 3. Now, for a score of B, In speaking, you will need to secure at least 5 in all linguistic criteria and 2 in all the clinical communication criteria.
Subscribe and motivate us to create more for you.